Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Steam, and the other day there was a huge report about a massive Steam data breach. And here is one of the reports that had a lot of people talking. It says yesterday an alleged major Steam data breach occurred, compromising over 89 million user records, roughly 2/3 of all Steam accounts. These data sets are being sold for over $5,000 on what appears to be a site akin to MIPT. Now, there was a lot of chatter out there in regards to changing passwords and speculation as to what data was stolen, and a lot of people were worried. And Steam has quickly put out a response, and they say a note about the security of your Steam account. The recent leak being reported did not breach Steam systems. You may have seen reports of leaks of older text messages that had previously been sent to Steam customers. We have examined the leak sample and have determined this was not a breach of Steam systems. We're still digging through into the source of the leak, which is compounded by the fact that any SMS messages are unencrypted in transit and routed through multiple providers on the way to your phone. And as for the leak itself, they say the leak consisted of older text messages that included one-time codes that were only valid for 15-minute time frames and for the phone numbers they were sent to. The leaked data did not associate the phone numbers with a Steam account, password information, payment information, or other personal data. Furthermore, they say old text messages cannot be used to breach the security of your Steam account, and whenever a code is used to change your Steam email or password using SMS, you will receive a confirmation via email and/or Steam secure messages. You do not need to change your passwords or phone numbers as a result of this event. So yeah, it appears there was a breach, but it was not a breach of Steam systems, and it doesn't appear that this is a huge concern at all. It appears to be a nothing burger. I could be wrong about that. If you don't think I'm right, let me know in the comments below. But anyways, here, I don't think this is something to overly be concerned about. Obviously, unencrypted SMS messages are a concern, and they do recommend using something like the Steam Mobile Authenticator, which I'd recommend as well. But I don't know here. Let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below. If you were worried about this one, hopefully it helps clear things up. I'm glad Steam was very quick to address the issue. Next up, we're shifting from Steam to Nintendo, and we're talking about a situation where I don't think Nintendo intended to happen. And it appears that Nintendo has inadvertently or indirectly or directly helped out emulation. So they've updated Mario Kart 8 Deluxe to version 3.0.4. And with it comes emulation improvements. Now, this is being reported in a bunch of different locations, and well, here's one of the tweets. Brutal, my friends. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has received update version 3.0.4. Nintendo has secretly converted the game to 64-bit. This has generated a huge performance gain as Switch emulators on Android can now run CPU code natively without a JIT. There's a number of people also posting proof of the improvements after the update. This person here says after installing the update version 3.0.4, the game gained more FPS. I'm using Sudachi on the Retroid Pocket 5 Snapdragon 865. The FPS has improved a lot. Now, because of this, I've seen a lot of people praising Nintendo. For example, this comment here, thank you Nintendo for your contribution to Switch emulation. Let me know your thoughts about that one in the comments below. And if you're interested in anything we're talking about and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. And continuing to talk about the Nintendo Switch, but going up one generation and talking about the Switch 2. And next up, we're talking about Switch 2 specs. So there's been a lot of rumor online, a lot of talk about the Switch 2 specs. There's been some early leaks, some developer builds that people have taken a look at. And now it seems the Switch 2 specs have been confirmed. And a lot of people are comparing the GPU to a laptop 2050. If you are curious about the specs, Digital Foundry has you covered, and they go over this in a lot of detail, including showcasing gameplay of an RTX 2050 laptop version in action. On a side note, of the 12 gigs of RAM, it appears that 3 gigs is reserved for the system OS. And I've seen some people here complain because in that 3 gigs, it also includes the reservation for game chat, a feature that some people are saying not a lot of people are going to be using. We'll have to wait and see on that one in terms of how this is all utilized and how it all pans out in performance and all of that. But at the same time here, there seems to be a lot, and I mean a lot of people who are upset about the specs. However, I have also seen a lot of positive comments about it, so it seems the overall sentiment is relatively mixed. I could be wrong about that. I mean, this person here sums up what I think a lot of people are thinking, mostly what I expected outside of the reserved OS RAM. And this person here as well. So in other words, it's solid for what it is. 3 gigs for the game chat is nuts though. But moving on, and next up, we're still talking about Nintendo, but going back a few generations and talking about the Nintendo 3DS, specifically Nintendo 3DS emulation with Tanuki 3DS. Now, Tanuki 3DS is not a fork of Citra. It's its own thing. And Tanuki 3DS just got a brand new update. So at the time of filming, Tanuki 3DS version 0.3.0 is the latest update. We've got some fixes, improvements, and brand new stuff. So they've implemented geometry shaders. There's a new save data folder and naming. Old saves need to be manually transferred. There's support for loading the original shared font and Me resource files dumped from a 3DS. There's support for a few different screen layouts and proper handling of full screen. On top of that, there's various HLEOS improvements, various HLE audio improvements, and probably other things too. Tanuki 3DS is 100% free and open source. Next up, we're shifting from improvements to innovation, or possibly even both here. I think this is amazing. We're talking about the legendary Rich Whitehouse's Killer Instinct emulator, BigInstict. And let me know your thoughts about this. So Rich says, cross your eyes and behold a true miracle of emulation. Killer Instinct in stereoscopic 3D at 60 FPS. It's working beautifully on every stage in both Killer Instinct and Killer Instinct 2. BigInstict has a very interesting story behind it. I mean, we've talked about it a bunch on this channel, and Rich talks about it on his Patreon page. If you wanted to learn more about it, I do recommend checking up on Rich Whitehouse. Next up, we're talking about SNK and one of my favorite recent fighting games, which apparently isn't that great. So it turns out that the SNK CEO is stepping down after the heavily marketed Fatal Fury City of the Wolves seemingly muted launch. And that title is Being Nice. For example, here's another title. SNK CEO steps down after Fatal Fury City of the Wolves bombs. It seems the game is not doing as well as they wanted it to. Now, Fatal Fury City of the Wolves has been heavily advertised. I mean, it had spots on WrestleMania and boxing matches here and even more. And it seems the return on investment isn't what they had anticipated. The game has been heavily criticized in the media. I even criticized it over the addition of Cristiano Ronaldo and Salvatore Ganacci, and I still think they're super weird to have in the game, and I think the game would be better without them. That might be a hot take, but apparently not based on the sales figures. Either way, here it's just... it's unfortunate to see because I think it's a very good game. I really like it. But at the same time, I can completely understand that, first and foremost, fighting games can be very niche. And secondly here, the popularity of something like Fatal Fury in comparison with like Tekken and Street Fighter, it doesn't always measure up. Taking a look at the ratings for Fatal Fury, and I would say overall it's reviewed very well, very favorably. Maybe it was the price of this game that didn't generate a lot of excitement. I mean, in Canada, it's like $82.51. It's not a cheap game, although it does include some of the first DLC for the game. But at the same time here, I really don't know what resulted in poor sales of the game. Let me know your thoughts about this one or any speculations or ideas you may have in the comments below. And speaking about costs of things, next up we're talking about something that doesn't cost a dime, and it's one of my favorite Linux distributions, and that is Nobara. Nobara is based on Fedora. It is very heavily favored in terms of Linux and gaming builds. Anyways, here taking a look, Nobara 42 has just released, built on Fedora 42. And one of the big changes here is that Brave is now the official browser with a few tweaks to it. Now, if you're new to Linux, I do recommend using something like Bazzite instead of Nobara. But if you're familiar with Linux, if you don't mind getting your hands dirty and you like to have full control over your system, Nobara I would highly recommend as something to check out. Glorious Eggroll does a lot of really great work here. I mean, he does a lot of great work, for example, for his custom Proton. I would just say overall here, Nobara's a fantastic operating system that I don't think gets enough praise. And on a quick side note here, the Nobara distribution is rolling release. So if you're already using Nobara, you should automatically have these updates without too much of a hassle. Next up, we're talking about Ubisoft. And to me, this one is super weird, and I'm very curious to see what Ubisoft looks like in a couple of years, because it's being reported that Ubisoft will reduce costs of $110 million in 2 years. And from my understanding, that is on top of stuff that they've already done, like closing studios and laying off staff. And I'm wondering at what point will they not be big enough to keep producing games? Like, you need staff to make games? I don't know here. And I'm wondering if game quality is arguably going to continue to suffer. But it is being reported that the Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake is still set to release before April of 2026. Let me know your thoughts here. It's just, I think Ubisoft is on a downward spiral. And last up here, we're talking about Metal Gear on the Sega Megadrive. And if you're a fan of Metal Gear and a fan of the Genesis or Megadrive, you might be a fan of this here. This is a project over on itch.io, and I think this one looks really cool, and I will be probably checking it out. It's worth noting this game is based on the Amiga port of the game, and there is both a 3-button mode and 6-button mode, and the download here is pretty small, 633 kilobytes. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.